Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a topic that feels more relevant than ever: the death of truth, and what exactly postmodernism has to say about it. Grab a coffee, because this is going to be a fascinating journey. Now that title, The Death of Truth, sounds pretty dramatic, right? It certainly makes you sit up and pay attention. For centuries, Western thought was largely built on the idea that there's an objective, universal truth out there, waiting to be discovered. Think of science, philosophy, even religion. They often sought to uncover these foundational certainties. But then came postmodernism, a complex and often misunderstood movement that challenged these very assumptions. So, what is postmodernism? It's not a single unified theory, but more like a collection of ideas and critical perspectives that emerged in the mid to late 20th century. It reacted against what it saw as the failures and limitations of modernism, the belief in progress, grand narratives, and universal systems of knowledge. Postmodern thinkers started asking tough questions about power, language, and the very construction of reality. One of the core tenets of postmodernism is its skepticism towards grand narratives, or metanarratives. These are the overarching stories we tell ourselves to make sense of the world, like the idea of human progress, the triumph of science, or universal moral laws. Postmodernists argue that these narratives, while seemingly neutral, are often constructed by dominant groups and serve to legitimize certain power structures while marginalizing others. They suggest that what we perceive as truth is often just a widely accepted story. Think about how history is taught. For a long time, it was often presented as a linear progression, a story of conquerors and empires. Postmodern historians, however, started asking, whose story is this? Whose voices are missing? What perspectives are being ignored? They highlight that history isn't just a set of objective facts, but an interpretation, a narrative shaped by the people who write it and the times they live in. This doesn't mean history didn't happen, but that its meaning and presentation are contestable. Another key idea is the role of language. Postmodernists argue that language doesn't just describe reality, it actively constructs it. The words we use, the categories we create, the way we frame discussions, all of these shape our understanding of the world. There isn't a direct, unmediated access to truth. Everything is filtered through language and interpretation. This means that concepts like reality and truth become much more fluid and dependent on context. This idea leads to a fascinating consequence. If truth is constructed through language and narratives, and these narratives are often tied to power, then the very concept of objective truth comes under scrutiny. Postmodernism suggests that what we call truth is often a product of social consensus, cultural context, and prevailing power dynamics. It's not necessarily about saying nothing is true, but questioning how things become true and for whom. So, does this mean the death of truth is really happening? Not exactly in the way it sounds. Postmodernism isn't advocating for a world where everyone makes up their own facts and nothing is real. Instead, it's an invitation to be critically aware. It encourages us to question authority, to scrutinize the narratives presented to us, and to recognize that different perspectives hold different insights. It's about being wary of anyone claiming to have the sole, definitive answer to complex questions. In our current world, where misinformation can spread rapidly and different groups have vastly different understandings of reality, postmodern ideas can feel both unsettling and incredibly insightful. On one hand, the questioning of objective truth can be misinterpreted as an excuse for relativism, where all opinions are equally valid regardless of evidence. This can lead to a breakdown in shared understanding, which we've certainly seen glimpses of. However, on the other hand, postmodernism's emphasis on diverse perspectives and critical thinking can be a powerful tool. It teaches us to look for the nuances, to understand the motivations behind different claims, and to recognize that complex problems rarely have simple, singular solutions. It encourages empathy by urging us to understand how different people, with different experiences and backgrounds, might interpret the world and its truths in vastly different ways. It pushes us to acknowledge that our own perspectives are always partial and situated. We all operate within our own cultural, social, and personal frameworks, and these frameworks influence what we see as true or important. This doesn't mean facts don't exist, but that the meaning and significance of those facts can be interpreted through various lenses. For example, take climate change. The scientific facts are overwhelmingly clear. However, the narrative around climate change, whether it's an economic threat, a moral imperative, a political hoax, or an environmental disaster, can be framed and interpreted in many ways, often reflecting different values and interests. Postmodernism helps us dissect these framings and understand why people might respond differently, even to the same set of facts. Ultimately, the death of truth isn't about truth actually dying. It's more about the death of a singular, monolithic, universally agreed upon truth that stands outside all human interpretation and influence. It's a recognition that truth, as we experience it, is always mediated, contextual, and often intertwined with power. So, what do we take away from all this? First, intellectual humility. Recognizing that our own understanding is always partial and open to challenge. Second, critical thinking. Don't blindly accept narratives, no matter how appealing they seem. Ask, who is telling this story? What are their assumptions? Whose voices are being left out? And third, a commitment to dialogue and understanding. If there's no single, universally accessible truth, then engaging with diverse perspectives becomes even more crucial for building shared meaning and navigating our complex world. Postmodernism isn't an easy philosophy, and it certainly has its critics. But its insights into how we construct knowledge, narratives, and reality are undeniably profound and continue to shape our conversations today. It challenges us to be more thoughtful, more critical, and ultimately, more open-minded. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of postmodernism and the death of truth. I know it's a dense topic, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about these ideas? Does the concept of the death of truth resonate with you, or do you find it unsettling? Let's keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with someone who might find it interesting, and don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content. Your support means the world. See you in the next one.